Hello and welcome. So today we're jumping into a really fascinating question. Why is a classroom in one country so different from a classroom in another? We're going to unpack the powerful forces that shape the very way nations decide to educate their kids.
It's one of those things, right? You see it, but maybe you don't think about it too much. Why do some school systems focus on memorization while others are all about creative play? Why are some run from the top down by the government and others are managed locally? We all see these differences, but today we're going to get to the why.
So to really get to the bottom of this, we need the right set of tools. And our main tool is a field of study called comparative education. But before we can even start comparing things, we have to agree on what education itself actually is.
And it's so interesting when you look at the word's origin. It comes from two Latin ideas, educare, which means to draw out what's already inside a person, and educare, which means to nourish. So right from the start, we see education isn't just about filling up an empty bucket. It's this dual process of unlocking potential while passing on a society's entire culture.
And this is exactly where comparative education comes in. It takes our simple curiosity and turns it into a science. As the scholar Vernon Mallinson put it, it's a systematic examination. We're not just, casually noticing differences, we are digging deep to understand the real reasons why those differences even exist in the first place.
Okay, so we have our definition, we have our field of study. But what's the point of all this? I mean, why should we bother looking at schools in other countries when we've got plenty of our own challenges to deal with right here at home?
Well, it turns out the reasons are incredibly practical. This is not just some academic exercise. By studying others, we suddenly see our own system with new eyes. We start to notice the things we just took for granted. It gives us a whole toolbox of new ideas for making real changes. I mean, we get to see how another country already tackled a problem we're facing. And on a bigger scale, it helps us all work together and, just understand each other a little better.
So we know why we should compare. Now let's get to the real heart of it. What are these powerful and often invisible forces that are actually molding a nation's schools?
And this right here is the core idea. A country's school system is never random. It's a direct reflection of that nation's unique character, its history, its economy, its values, and its politics. All of it is woven together to create something totally specific.
So, these are the prime suspects. History leaves this deep, lasting imprint. Think about the legacy of colonialism. A nation's wealth basically determines what's even possible. The political ideology, that dictates who's in control and what the purpose of school even is. And of course, the society's core cultural values and its language, well, that determines what's taught and how. And none of these work alone. They're always mixed together in this dynamic combo.
Let's just zoom in on one of those for a second. The historical factor. As this quote makes crystal clear, the school systems in so many nations today aren't just a product of their own choices. They are fundamentally shaped by the structures that were left behind by former colonial powers. The past is always present in the classroom.
All right, theory is great, but let's see how this actually works in practice. We're going to open up a little case file on two very different countries, France and South Africa, and see how these shaping forces have created two totally distinct educational worlds.
I mean, look at this. It's a stark contrast forged by history. In France, you have this long struggle to separate the school from the church, and that led to a powerful, centralized state system. But then you look at South Africa. The end of apartheid demanded the exact opposite. They had to dismantle a deliberately unequal system, and that led them to a decentralized model, giving power to 9 brand new provinces. Two different histories, two completely opposite structures.
But history is only one piece of the puzzle. Let's pivot to the economic factor and take a closer look at South Africa, because honestly, a nation's budget tells you a lot about its real priorities.
So, South Africa spends about 6% of its GDP on education. That's a really significant investment. It's higher than many other countries in the region. But here's the thing. Despite that commitment, the country still faces huge challenges with student achievement. It's a powerful lesson. Money is absolutely crucial, but it doesn't work in a vacuum. How that money gets spent and all those other historical and social factors at play can be just as important.
Okay, so after our whirlwind tour of definitions, forces, and case studies, what's the big takeaway? What does all of this mean for how we think about the schools right in our own backyards? This is really the ultimate value of looking outward. The goal isn't to crown some country's system as the best, it's to hold up a mirror to our own. By understanding the forces that shaped a school in France or South Africa, we can finally start to see the invisible forces shaping our own classrooms.
We can begin to ask the tough questions. Why do we do things this way? And is there a better way?
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Now that you're starting to think like an educational comparativist, what's one practice, one philosophy, or one idea from another country that you think could make a real difference where you live? It's a powerful question, and just thinking about the answer, well, that's the first step toward change.